All right, and it looks like we are live. Hi, everyone. For those of you that are able to join us, hello, hello. It's good to see you. I hope that you're all getting to enjoy this warmer weather that we're having. I know I am. That's why I'm outside and enjoying this. Hope you guys are getting to as well. As usual, we have an awesome class lined up for tonight. Continuing with our series on being professional, how to get a job, how to keep a job, all things job, which is really important for those of us that either want a job someday or are looking for one now or already have one. So it really applies to each and every one of us, this series. So it's awesome. And I'm glad you guys are here with us tonight. I'm going to give everyone just about a minute so we can have some more people hop on. I've already heard from a couple youth saying they are going to join us, but they might be a couple minutes late. So that'll be all right. Again, since these stay up, they're able to rewatch the beginning if they need to, which is good. So yes. Hope y'all are doing good. Lindsay and Josh, how was your week last week?
Great. Had a really good week last week.
Good. Yeah, same here. I'm actually just got into North Carolina today, so I'm calling in from Winston-Salem. Hitting the road. I'll be back on Friday.
Yes, that's okay. That's good. I was gonna ask you what you're doing in. You said North Carolina, right? Not South.
Yeah, so I flew into Charlotte, drove over to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I'll come back on Friday.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you've had safe travels so far.
Yes, thank you.
Did you drive or fly?
I flew. It's a direct flight to Charlotte.
Yeah, that's true. I've only been on a plane once since COVID, and I don't care to do it again. Hopefully I won't have to fly until this COVID stuff's over. But I am impressed with how seriously they're taking COVID and the safety precautions. That's good. So.
Oh yeah.
That is good. That is good. All righty. I don't see anyone yet. Again, I think we're going to have a few hop on in just a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and share this on our Facebook page so more people can join us from there.
Okay.
Just give me one moment and I can do that.
Sure.
We drove by and saw the new Overcomers building. It's looking really good.
Isn't it fantastic? We got to have a tour last week. We all put our hard hats on and we're walking around and getting the details about which walls are going to be what color and where things are going to go. It's really, really amazing. I mean, really less than 2 months they're thinking until we can be in there. So it's pretty exciting and coming up very soon, which is awesome. But we're all excited. It's going to be a big adjustment to go from that tiny, have you guys been in the space where we're working? It used to be the administrative part, but it's a tiny little building that's working fine for what we're trying to do. But it's going to be an adjustment to go to a big old building that we're able to have more people in at a time. So it's going to be great though. I'm excited for you youth to see it. You're the reason we're doing this whole building thing is so you guys are able to get what you need. And Eric was saying we want a building that reflects how important y'all are to us. The black warehouse was fine for the time, but you guys needed something nicer. It's what y'all deserve. So that's the big part of the new building is just a proper facility for your needs and how important you guys are to us. So it's very exciting stuff. Definitely. All right, so I've shared it to Facebook, so I might have a few hop on.
We got a few. We got Cheyenne on. We're talking back and forth right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I guess mine's delayed a little bit. I'm tuning in from my phone for the chat. Okay, she just popped up. Awesome. Well, if you guys are ready, we can go ahead and get started. I will turn it over to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to let Regina in real quick into the Zoom.
Oh yeah, go for it. I was viewing the stream on the YouTube. I see she's in here. Yeah.
Hey, Regina.
Hi, Regina. Oh, she's outside too. You look like you're going for a walk.
Yeah, I think she was walking last week or maybe a couple weeks ago.
Awesome. Enjoy this weather. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to keep it short tonight. We were going back and forth on if we wanted to do a longer class or if we wanted to keep it closer to like a 15 to 20 minute. And so we decided 15 to 20 minute just to give everyone a break. So tonight we're going to talk about phone and text communication only. And then next week we will wrap up our communication. Now it's a trilogy with face-to-face communication. So if you remember last week, we focused only on email. A lot of the tips that applied in email, of course, apply to phone conversations. And then we'll touch a little bit on text because yes, you can have professional text communication. I just actually had a friend who negotiated her salary and her job offer over text, which I thought was kind of crazy, but her HR person reached out to her over text, and that's how they negotiated her position. So it can and does happen. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and we will answer those at the end, or you can raise your hand if you have a question, and if you're in Zoom, and we'll stop and answer your questions. But if you remember, there's 4 different ways to communicate in the workplace. Email, and we talked about this last time. Email is really good to communicate facts and relay information. Email is not a collaboration tool. It's not how you have group discussions, and be very careful with your reply all. This time we're talking about phone calls, some one-on-one or group phone calls, also text message. And then it's really good for casual and quick exchange. And like I said, next week we'll get into face-to-face, which is pretty much meetings, right? When you're having a face-to-face, either an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting. All right, so phone calls. If email is good for facts and information, phone calls are really good for personal and urgent matters. So if it's something that's like really personal, or if you need an answer right away, you don't want to go to email. Because if you send an email and you need a response very quickly, then obviously now you're waiting on the other person, whereas you could pick up the phone, get a hold of them, and get your answers hashed out pretty quickly. So make sure you're calling someone if this is emotionally charged conversation, if you need to express empathy or emotion, or if you cannot meet in person. And this includes if you have to apologize. And I've had this happen to me recently. I actually had a customer or a client reach out to me over email, and it was a pretty harsh email. And I was concerned about our relationship. And so rather than responding with an email, I immediately picked up the phone and called him. And it was a tough conversation. I did not want to pick up the phone and call him. It was very uncomfortable for me to do that. But I knew that I had to pick up the phone and call him, because if I tried to respond via email, I was expressing this issue and him as a client were not as important or urgent to me. And I didn't want anything to be lost in translation, because, I email him trying to address his concerns. He emails me back, and now we're going back and forth over email, and we're sort of building up this tension. But it's harder. But if you call someone, if you need to apologize, or if there's some miscommunication, confusion, if it's a dicey situation, calling is always better, because people tend to get defensive in email and maybe say some things that they wouldn't say on the phone. So that works for your benefit. And then same to you, it keeps yourself in check, right? You probably would do the same thing. It's really easy to fire off a nasty gram email, but you might choose your words more carefully over the phone. Also, if you're working through some Q&A, or if you're expecting a lot of questions, or if you think you're going to have a lot of questions, Even during the job application process, right? If you're calling about a job and you're trying to find out more information on it, you probably don't want to do that over email because there might be some follow-up questions, right? And even if you write a super great email and you have all your questions bulleted out, there's probably something that you may have missed, that you haven't thought about, or if the person responds in an incomplete manner, then you still have to send another email. So if you've got a lot of questions stacked up, phone calls always the best, and that way you can like quickly ask your follow-up question or ask them to explain in further detail. Same if the subject is really complicated or technical, if there's a lot of details or information. Like we talked about last time, it's so hard on you, taxing on you to like read through a long email. It's just like a lot of information for your brain to just sit and process. And you open up a long email, you're like, oh, that's so long. I don't want to read that. And you might even close it. And the person on the other end, they might do the same thing. Where if you're on the phone, the conversation happens more quickly, more naturally, it's more personal. And you can get down to what you need to do more quickly. Also, if a lot of time has passed, so let's say that like you turned in a job application and they reached out to you about an interview and you missed the email. So you've missed the email and a week has gone by or more. And like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I missed this. I didn't get your email. Instead of responding and be like, hey, I'm so sorry I missed your email. I highly recommend just picking up the phone and calling that hiring manager. And again, you're going to apologize. I'm sorry. I know it's been a few days. I missed your email, but I wanted to call you. This job is important to me. This opportunity is important to me. Can we go ahead and schedule that interview? If you do that over email, again, it doesn't show the same level of care and urgency as a phone call. So again, situation is urgent. If you need an immediate response, definitely the phone call is your best bet. I would like to welcome Sierra to the meeting.
Hey, Sierra.
Hi.
Okay, so just some tips on phone etiquette. And this is especially true if you're calling someone. Always, or if you're expecting a phone call, always have pencil and paper ready to go. I know that seems obvious, but you can always forget, right? So I always recommend having pencil and paper because the last thing you want, especially if a hiring manager is like, hey, are you available like Wednesday at 2? Or if they're giving you information about the building or whatever, or if you have questions for them and they're answering their questions, you're like, hold on, I need to get a pencil and paper. Like you don't want the other person to be on the hook while you're trying to find like a pen and paper. So just like be ready. It comes across as professional. Also, if you're going to call someone, prepare and organize your thoughts ahead of time, especially if you think you might be nervous or, and especially if you need to apologize or if it might be like a kind of a tense conversation. Anything that involves emotion, I definitely recommend at least running through what you want to say at least once in your head, because you don't want to try and find your words when you're on the phone call. You don't want to stutter or forget your wording or ramble. So make sure that you've got your thoughts organized, you figure out what you want to say, and that way you can ask them very clearly and professionally. And then write down questions that you want to ask just so you don't forget. The last thing you want to do is call someone, ask questions like, oh, I forgot to ask about whatever, about parking or about like, how should I dress or should I bring my resume? So just make sure you ask you write down all the questions that you want to ask, and that way you can go ahead and write down your answers also right underneath them. Okay, so whenever you are expecting a phone call, or even if you're calling someone, a greeting makes a big difference. It's always safe to start off friendly and formal. Okay, so you can say, hey, hi, this is Lindsay, or thank you for calling, this is Lindsay, or hello. And what you do is you sort of gauge what the other person is doing and like work your energy off of their energy. So if they come in and they're pretty casual, don't make it like really formal and try to like, don't think like I need to be extra formal so I can come off as more professional, because that's going to be kind of like awkward and weird for them if they're like pretty casual and talking to you informally and you come back, but like in this really formal way. So just kind of gauge your response, especially for like a hiring manager or an HR person or even a client. If you have like an office job, start off friendly and professional, and then sort of modify that as you start talking to the other person. Always identify yourself. Don't just say like hello, especially if you're expecting a phone call for a job or an interview or even from a client. You always want to say, hi, this is whoever. And then if you're working somewhere, go ahead and include your title. If you're in a specific department or organization, try to identify yourself the best that you can so the other person knows who you are and it gives them an idea of why you're calling. And if you guys get disconnected, then it'll be easier for them to track you down. So, hi, this is Lindsay. I'm an instructor with Legacy FM. Or, hey, I'm Sierra. I'm with Immerse Overcomers. I'm calling about, this training program or about this job. So try to give them a little bit of information just so they know who you are and why you're calling. And then speak clearly and indicate the point of your phone call as soon as possible. So just like in the email, we talked about this last time, in those first couple of sentences, you want to say, I'm emailing you because, I'm calling you because, and try to make that as articulate and clear as you can. And that's why it helps to run this in your brain before you actually pick up the phone. And that way you can like really nail this part. So I'm calling about my job application. I'm calling because I need to reschedule my interview. Hi, this is Lindsay. I had an interview with Stacy last week. I just wanted to check in about progress in my application. And so at least give them an idea of who you are and why you're calling as soon as you can. Oh, and it also helps to smile. When you answer the phone, it makes you sound friendlier. I don't know why this works, but whenever you smile when you're talking, you sound happier. And people like happy people, friendly people. So that's like a little trick that you can use. Okay, so during your phone call, be mindful of your pace, your rate of speech. Are you talking too slowly? You're talking too slowly if they're like, what? Or hello, like in the middle of your like sentence. Like, if you have like this really long pause and like hello, then you probably are talking too slowly and to like pick it up. Or if you're talking too quickly, they'll be like, okay, what was that? Can you repeat that? And then you're probably talking too quickly. So make sure you're paying attention to your speech, your tone, your pace, how quickly you're talking. If it's a sensitive topic, you're calling to apologize. Make sure you sound sincere. Parroting is a really cool trick because it works. So active listening is when you are not listening to formulate a response. So you're on the phone and you're listening to the other person, and while they're talking, naturally what we want to do is formulate a response to whatever they're saying. And we really should not do that, especially if you want to make a good impression. When you're listening to someone, you want to see what like keywords they're using a lot or what phrases they're using. We all kind of like get set in our speech. So there's probably words that all of us tend to say a lot, phrases that we tend to say a lot. And that's going to come up in the other person's speech. And if you can basically repeat whatever they said back to them, but like in a natural way, that's called parroting. So if Josh was to say like, hey, I had a really good day. This meeting was really good. I think they were really paying attention during the meeting and they're going to like listen to these phone etiquette skills. And like, yeah, they were really paying attention. And I agree. I think they're going to listen to our phone etiquette skills. And so that affirms for him that like, I was listening to him, right? I was being a good listener. And like, he feels good. He's like, yeah, I'm smart. Like, I totally know what I'm talking about. And I just like kind of puffed him up a little bit because I used his own words back at him. So that's parroting. Also, if there's a disruption, so like, let's say our cat like walked across the screen right now and I'm in the middle of like an interview for a job and this cat like makes its way across, don't ignore it. I mean, the cat is there. Or if the dog is barking in the background, don't ignore it. acknowledge that it's happening. This happened actually to a student I was working with last week, and she was in the middle of an interview and her class came in, and because like the timing was sort of off, and so she had planned to be done before the class got in, but we were running long. And so the class came in, it was like so chaotic, and I was really proud of her because she said, hey, do you mind if I just go off screen and mute real quick, and I'm going to move to a different room? Or if your cat walks across the screen, like, oh, I'm really sorry about that. I know she was locked up, or my dog's barking and going crazy. I'm really sorry. Do you mind if I step away and take care of this? Or I'm sorry about that. That was my cat. But don't try to ignore it, because that makes it more awkward and kind of weird if you don't acknowledge that something is happening. And then obviously stay engaged. And this is really hard, especially since we're always tempted to like pick up our phone when someone's talking, like, hey, like, what's happening on my socials right now? Or like, what's the news feed doing? Or like, what's this text message? Like, we're so hardwired to constantly be like consuming information that it's becoming more and more difficult to stay engaged in one-on-one conversation. But especially when you're obviously interviewing and looking for a job, it's really important to do that. Okay, and then in an interview situation, close strong, or in a meeting situation, close strong. Hopefully you brought your pen and paper, right? And you came prepared with questions, and you've been writing down like detailed notes to all your answers to your questions. It really makes a big difference at the end of your conversation if you recap whatever you guys talked about. So let's say you were doing a Zoom interview. You talked about like, thank you so much. I really appreciate how you explained what my job responsibilities are going to be. I now have a better understanding, and you can like give a specific example. I also understand that you are going to reach out to me in a few days once you've had a chance to interview some other candidates. I really appreciate your time, and at least like recap the conversation. So again, they know you were listening, and you can also capture next steps to make it really clear. So I've made it clear that I'm going to wait to hear from you because you are interviewing other candidates. And so I'm going to wait to hear from you, instead of like, okay, well, I guess I'll follow up with you for a few days, or I guess I'll hear from you. That's not a strong ending. I'm going to wait to hear from you in a few days after you've had a chance to interview some other people. Thank you for your time. And just make it just like really clear, who is doing what. And of course, you can always follow up with an email, especially to like an interview situation. Whoever you were talking to, thank you for your time today. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm really excited about this position. And then you can maybe leave a couple of details. So you can always like recap your conversation. This is super important when you have a job, especially when you're working with other people on a project or customers, for two reasons. In a meeting, I might think one thing is said, and Josh might think something else was said. Like, no, wait, I thought we were doing this. And he was like, no, I think we're doing this. And so now we're like, okay. And we don't have any notes. But if we had an email, in my email, I could say, Josh, you're going to pick up lunch tomorrow for the Immerse Overcomers and deliver it. And it's very clear who is doing what and when. And then if Josh was like, wait, I thought I was picking up lunch, but you were going to deliver it. You see, like, it now adds some like really good clarity to like what was being discussed. Okay, I am not a fan of voicemail. I think voicemail is a last ditch effort, and it's because of this statistic right here. I don't know about you guys. I do not leave voicemails hardly ever. I really prefer not to listen to my voicemails. If I can, I will read my voicemails. But if I know someone called me, I'm going to call them back. Or if someone calls me and they can't get a hold of me, then they're going to text, or I'm going to text them. But people still use voicemail, and there is a place for it. But up to 80% of people do not leave it because they just think no one's going to listen to it anyway. They're just going to call me back and see what I wanted. I really, if I'm trying to get a hold of someone and they don't answer, I won't leave a voicemail. I'll just hang up and I'll wait like an hour or 2 hours and I'll try calling them again. And same if I call someone and I get their administrative assistant or like a secretary or a receptionist and they ask to take a message, I'll just say, when it would be a good time to reach them. I hardly ever leave a message, because when you leave a message, you've given up control. Now the ball is in their court, and now you are waiting passively for them to do something. You can't call them back after you leave a voicemail. You can't be like, hey, I know I left you a message, it's me again. And you can't like keep doing that. You can call someone and keep trying to get a hold of them until they answer the phone. But like once you leave a voicemail, the ball is pretty much out of your court, because once you start to pile on voicemails, it looks really like desperate and needy. And it's just not a good look. What you could do is, if you have to leave a voicemail, you absolutely have to leave a voicemail. You try calling, you try to leave a message, like nothing's working, you have to leave a voicemail. I always follow up with an email. So like, hey, I just left you a voicemail about this. And then I'll state very clearly what the reason is. And then I'll ask them, when is a good time to talk? Or you can call me during this time. So I keep it very brief, direct, always friendly, right? Always professional, just like your greeting. You're going to monitor your tone. You're going to enunciate. The worst thing you can do in a voicemail is make it confusing and mumble. And then like they hang up and like, okay, what they want or what they say? I didn't understand that. So voicemail is a really important time to enunciate and speak clearly. Okay, so here's like a bad example of that. Hey, I got your message. You didn't say who you were. I was trying to reach, you forgot their name and you had to think about it because you didn't think about what you wanted to say before you left your message. I don't know what happened to that invoice, email, whatever it is. I don't know what happened to whatever you called about. I need some more time, but I'll try and find it and I'll get back to you. And then if you want, you can call me in a couple of days. So if you want, you can call me in a couple of days. Well, I don't know if they want, because we're not on the phone. So now it's very unclear. Am I calling them back when I find the information? Are they going to call me back in a couple of days? We don't know. We don't know what's going on. Okay. Hi, this is my name, and this is who I'm with. I'm calling to speak to person, I didn't stutter, regarding a very specific thing. And I'm going to give them as much detail as I can. So that way they're not like, it's not just an invoice. I'm calling about an invoice. I'm calling about this invoice dated this, whatever. And that way the person who gets that message can go gather that information. If I'm just saying, hey, this is Jane, I'm calling about an invoice. Cool. But I can't help you because I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. And then you can reach me at, this is my phone number, and then between this time and this time. So I've made it very clear, you are going to call me back at this number between this time and this time. And that way it's not like, if you want to, you can whatever. It's very clear who's doing what. And then of course, keep it friendly and you're smiling when you're doing this. Thank you and have a nice day. So again, super short, very, not a lot of effort here. It's well thought out. You've given them the information and you've explained who is doing what. Okay, guys, that's it. That's what we got for phone calls. Oh, I forgot. Text messages. We were going to talk about text messages. Just kidding. Okay, this is the last slide. Okay, so text messages. Okay, so phone calls are for personal, all right, when it's an emotional conversation, or if you need an answer right away, because you can't do personal over email, and you can't do urgent over email, because if you need an answer right away, now you're at the mercy for them to answer you. So text is like if it's super personal or super urgent. So you've tried calling them, they didn't answer. I need an answer right now because I'm standing in line, or like I'm trying to book my travel, or I got, whatever it is. I need an answer like right this second. I'm gonna have to text you. And I would try to make your text messages basically like a mini email. Hey, this is why I'm texting. This is what I need. Still good grammar, to the point, clear. You've given them details, but it's basically like a little mini email because you need a quick response. But only do this only do this if you know that you can do this. So if the hiring manager or your boss, your coworker, your customer, if they have texted you first, it's there. You can text them back. Probably wouldn't use like emojis, but you could at least respond to them in complete sentences as much as you can. Watch your spelling, watch your grammar, all of those things. But it's cool to text if they text you. That's fair. So if you have a personal rapport, or if the conversation is not emotionally charged. I don't know about you guys, but if someone's angry at me or upset and they've texted, it always seems so much worse than it's probably intended. Whereas on the phone, you could just call and be like, oh, it's not that bad. So don't try to like apologize or like work out your conflict over text message. It was just like quick, casual, conversational. You got a quick question or two. You don't want to like text someone with a lot of questions, because that's again like email, and that becomes like, that's really annoying, right? And then the other thing is like you send them a bunch of questions and they've got answered, and you probably still have like follow-up questions, and now it's like you have like this really long text and you're like, wait, and then now you're confused, you're like, okay, back to this, and it becomes very messy very quickly. So keep it to like 1 or 2 questions. And then if you need to, if it starts getting into like that really long texting or confusing, like, hey, I'm just gonna step out and call you, or like, hey, can you just call me real quick, or like, when is a good time that we can just talk about this, rather than trying to like keep forcing the text conversation. And then, like I said, obviously, if you need a response on the immediate, phone call, texting is your best bet. Okay, now we're done. So that covers your phone and text tips for professional communication. And then I'll open it up to you guys in case you have any questions. And while we're waiting on questions, again, next week we're going to focus on face-to-face conversations. Some of you came in later, so it'll be the 3rd in this communication series, where we'll talk about like Zoom meetings and like one-on-one like interviews, or like a work meeting or something.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. One thing I was going to mention, just a personal thing that really helps me with email. So I get a lot of emails. I probably average maybe, Lindsay and Josh, y'all might laugh at this. I think getting 30 emails a day is a ton. Y'all might get a whole lot more than that. Since you guys are over probably lots of people, but for me, my 30 emails a day is kind of a lot. But yeah, every time I get an email that's like super long, I just mark as unread and get back to it when I have time to read the whole thing. And I'll mark emails unread as those that I know are going to need a response eventually, but I'm not ready to respond in the moment, or emails that I know I need to reread. So that could be a really good tip for some of you guys. If you happen to be maybe on the more forgetful side like me, I have to do a lot of things to compensate for that forgetfulness that is so lovingly a part of who I am. But that's okay. We all have stuff we got to overcome. So that's something that I do. You guys might want to use that too, because marking emails as unread, it keeps it there in your inbox in bold so that you don't forget about it. Super helpful for me, which is I was kind of thinking about that as you were talking about emails, Lindsay. And another thing I was going to mention is also, you guys, let's be aware of what our voicemail greetings sound like, because Lindsay's right. Most people are not going to leave a voicemail in this day and age, but it's still likely that they're going to hear like your voicemail greeting. And I always love to get a nice, funny, pranky kind of voicemail greeting, but just keep in mind that maybe if you're trying to be contacted by an employer or someone for school, it's not always the best look. Wouldn't it be nice if we could assign certain voicemail greetings to certain people? That would be really fun. But that is something that a lot of people hear. And I've also, seen some that you can't really hear what they're saying, or there's a lot of background noise, babies crying in the background. So just something to be aware of if you guys have people leaving you voicemails or calling you a lot. That's something that they're going to hear. So just something I wanted to mention, but
yeah,
super helpful about the different ways of communicating. You don't really think too much about how much you communicate at work until you think about all the different ways you do it. So
yeah,
it's pretty crazy. But yeah, does anyone have any questions? Sierra, Regina, I guess we lost Robin. Unless you're here, Robin.
We have Cheyenne too. Cheyenne, you have any questions?
Oh yeah, can't forget about Cheyenne tuning in on Facebook. Or YouTube, excuse me.
Texting back and forth the whole time, so.
Yeah, Cheyenne brought up some great points. That is the good thing. For those of you that aren't maybe not seeing the chat right now, Cheyenne was saying that with email and with text, you have a record of what's being communicated. You can go back and look. Super helpful. Super helpful. All right, Cheyenne's good. Doesn't have any questions. Anybody else? All righty. Well, we can go ahead and end it there. Lindsay, Josh, any final comments?
I don't have anything. I appreciate you adding in those tips at the end. Thank you. And Cheyenne, thank you. As always, thank you for your extra tips. Those help.
Sure, happy to help. I'm here learning along with everyone else. So if I can pitch in a little 2 cents, I'll do it. But I'm learning just as much. Regina, I didn't want to cut you off. Are you going to say something?
Yes, I had an announcement, but okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna be quiet. Look, I'm a mute so you can have the space. Watch.
This will probably be my last life skills. I will be starting my job on, well, I ain't started just yet, but I got a job that I applied for, got the job. So this gonna probably be my last life skills.
Congratulations.
Okay, I'm unmuting because I want to say congrats, Regina. That is awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the job you got?
Yeah, it's Waffle House, but it's still something.
What do you mean that's still something? That's a great job.
Yes.
Waffle House is awesome. Who doesn't like Waffle House?
Yeah, who doesn't like Waffle House?
You can't not like Waffle House. It's not possible. That is amazing. You don't say it on here because I want to respect your privacy, but you have to let me know which one you're working at. I might pop in for a chocolate chip waffle because those are some of my favorite things to eat. So.
I guess you.
But congratulations. We will miss you here at Live at 5. You know, all these are recorded though and put up on the YouTube channel. So you are definitely still able to go back and watch because we might be having more classes here in the future about things that could be really beneficial to use in the workplace. So you're always free to check back in on the YouTube channel because we're going to keep all of them up. But we will miss your face whenever we are going live. We do like to have you with us. But the content will still be there for you if you want to go back and find it. And that goes for all of you guys as well. It's all up here on the YouTube channel. And I've been getting the PowerPoint slides and putting them in the comments so you guys can download and save the slides as well. Maybe you're in a place where you just kind of want to read through the slides real quick. You're able to do that because we post the links to that in the comments. So yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Regina, about your job. That is exciting news.
Yes.
Exciting news. I love it. Well, if that is all for the night, I can go ahead and close this out. Final call for anything else?
No, that's about it.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks to all of you who are here tonight. Glad to see you all. I love that we had a couple of you guys hop into the actual Zoom call with us. That's my favorite. But yeah, I will go ahead and dismiss us for the night. I hope you guys stay safe and we will catch you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.